Hi there, my name is Jochen Schweitzer and I'm an associate professor here at the UTS Business School. So, strategy for founders. Well, strategy for founders really, in a nutshell, means that you have to think about how you go to market with any given solution or service that you're developing. There's a range of really useful strategy frameworks, I think, that we can talk about and that will illustrate what you will have to do and how you will have to think about these things as you are preparing to go to market with a product or a service. But first, it's important to note that strategy happens at different levels. So for a startup like yours, really it is the strategy of a business, of, as I said before, bringing a product or service to market. When you think of larger organizations, huge corporations, then they would have also a strategy that exists at the corporate level. That means a bigger business like that is actually looking after all kinds of business. There might be tens or hundreds of different businesses that a corporation like Telstra or a Boeing are involved with. So for each of these businesses, they would have a particular business level strategy, or sometimes it's called a business unit strategy. And on the overarching level, they have a corporate strategy. So that is to basically address the needs of shareholders and stakeholders and to set the overall direction and objectives for the organization. But strategy also happens at the functional level. That means if you think of your business and you're setting a go-to-market strategy, then that will also have an effect or an influence on how, let's say, the people in marketing then work towards achieving that strategy, or how people in operations will be working towards that strategy, or how you will have to start recruiting a particular type of talent into your organization. So these we would call functional strategies, and they flow from the business level strategy, and they determine the things and the decisions that you make and do sort of in trying to achieve your overall strategic objectives at the business level. But now let's have a little think about what's required in terms of strategy for founders. Well, the most important thing really is that you are very clear about who your customers are and what it is that you are providing to them in terms of your value proposition. So a strategy has to evolve at this level around a very clear value proposition. So here's a great model that shows strategy in context. It's been developed by Donald Hembrick and James Fredrickson, and it's very simple and quite practical in the way we can think about strategy. Now, what you see at the center of this model here is the strategy diamond, and I'll get to this in a moment and to explain what strategy or the actual strategy is made of. But before we do that, we have to understand the things that we have to also have in place before we can make strategy and look at strategy. Obviously, for any organization, you really want to make sure you have a clear understanding of what your mission is, where the organization is going, where you want it to be in the future. So this would be an articulation of the fundamental purpose and the fundamental values of the organization. From that, very clearly, you'll be able to identify a set of clear objectives, specific targets that you would like to achieve for the organization. As a startup founder, that is very likely to be quite narrow and quite focused on solving a particular problem for a particular set of customers. As the organization grows, other objectives and other parts of the mission might be relevant as well. And this really just sets the frame as to what you want your organization to become in the future. Now, particularly trying to really position an organization and going to a market with your proposal, we're also looking at the element of strategic analysis. Now, in strategic analysis, we're really trying to get a good picture of the marketplace in particular. So for a startup founder, the most relevant thing here really is to really understand customers, customer needs, jobs to be done, and how your product or solution can actually help them and help you deliver value. Other really important factors are, of course, competition. You need to understand who else is playing in the market, what are alternative products that customers are using at the moment. And you really want to analyze those and understand their strengths and weaknesses so you can identify how your product or service can actually beat the competition by just delivering better value to your customers. Other really important things are, for example, price sensitivities look like in the market segment, and if your pricing of your product or service actually makes a difference to customers, or if you really have to win this market over providing maybe a better quality of service or the products. So how does competition work in that particular market that you're targeting is one of the things that you need to study and understand. With this also comes an analysis of really fundamental trends in your market, or maybe more globally. There's a whole range of tools that you can use here, but really you're interested in understanding the key technological, socio-demographic trends that may affect your customer base now or into the future. Think of technologies like AI, blockchain, and their role in maybe the financial industries. Have a think about how these technologies are leveraged by the industry and how they create new markets. And you might be just playing in particular one of these new markets, but you also have to understand where that market and where that trend is going. And the last thing that you want to understand around strategic analysis is really about the strengths and weaknesses of the organization that you already have. Now, if you're a single founder or you have a small team of founding members of your organization, then look at what everybody brings to the mix. And from that also identify the types of things that the organization is lacking. Do you really have someone who can lead the technological development of your products and services? Or do you need to find someone out there? Do you have someone who can really bring in the best talent that's around there in the market? So a good look at the current capabilities and resources that are available to you as a founder or as a small organization really will help you to set up the organization strategically as well. So this sounds like a lot of work, but in a way, it is the legwork that you need to do to really go to market with any product or service. And when you do that, there is 5 ways of how we can think to position your organization and your offering within that competitive environment. So in this model, the strategy has these 5 elements, and let's talk through them quickly. The first one that makes really good sense, it's about arenas. Arenas are your decisions as to where you will be active and with how much emphasis you will be playing in a particular market segment. So which are the product categories, the market segments that you are serving, maybe geographic areas that you are limiting your scope to at the moment, or which are the core technologies that you want to enable. Arena is your playing field, and you have to make decisions about who to serve and who not to serve, because you can't serve everyone. It's your understanding of who your customers are, what the arena is in which you want to play is one of the first sets of decisions that you have to make. You have to identify the scope of your business in terms of arenas. The second element that we want to look at here is around vehicles. So vehicles is the idea of having an idea of how you want your organization or your business to grow over time and what the mechanisms are that you use to do that, or the vehicles. Many organizations grow organically. That means over time they just acquire more and more customers and get better at what they're doing, and this is how they determine growth. But your strategy might be one where you think, actually, the moment we have a bunch of customers, I'm going to raise a lot of money and I want to grow my company by acquiring another company. Or I want to grow my company by forging partnerships with other organizations. So how do you achieve growth? At this point, in an early stage of a startup, that seems to be really difficult to make a decision about, but you should think about that because it will determine how you're going to set up your organization into the future. So organic growth or by acquisition or joint ventures are some of the vehicles that companies choose to grow. The next element that we consider here is, of course, how you differentiate yourself and your offering in the marketplace. This could be due to any feature or element of your offering that beats the competition. Styling, price, image, customization, reliability and quality are all these different things that you could think about. But it's important to determine and decide what it's going to be. This is also often articulated as the unique selling proposition or the value proposition that your offering has to offer, because it differentiates yourself from the competition in ways that are meaningful to customers and that make customers want to choose you and not the competition. The fourth element is about staging. And staging really is about your decisions about what you will do and at what speed you will move. Think about it as the project management plan for your startup and your business. What are your steps? What will you do first, second, and third? What's the sequence of initiatives? First, you have to find customers, then you have to sell to them, then you have maybe the resources to build up capabilities. At the same time, you might be developing funding strategies or getting more funding into the organization. But how you do these things, you have to lay out, you have to think about it. What has to happen first, second, and third? This is staging, and your strategy will have to articulate that. Now, at the heart of this model is what's called the economic logic. Some people call it also the revenue generating mechanism. And think of this as the things that you put in place to actually make revenue or deliver the purpose that you want your organization to deliver. These are the mechanics of money making. You could be winning in the marketplace because you're selling at the margin. You could have a product that is maybe free for some customers and has to be paid by a smaller segment of the customers. So a free or freemium model, for example. You could have a subscription model if you're in the online space. You could just have a fee for service model. The range of economic logic and revenue generating mechanisms is vast. And it's your job, of course, as a startup founder to find out what the best mechanism can be. In your strategy, you have to articulate that and continually test and iterate and make it work. So these are the 5 elements of the strategy diamond that you would articulate by looking at your organization and your go-to-market strategy in a way using this model. Now, the model also has a next component here, and that's the supporting organizational agreements or arrangements, if you like. Now, I talked about this earlier. Once you set strategy, really the purpose of strategy is to set the direction for the organization. From that strategy should flow all the other decisions, and it should be easy for everyone in the organization to know what to do in terms of who to employ, how to organize processes, how to engage with customers, how to deliver services, how to develop the brand of the organization if that's relevant, or how to develop the web page. So really the supporting organizational arrangements are all those things and all those next level decisions that flow from that strategic decision that will really enable your organization to follow through and to achieve your objectives. So this might include decisions about how you reward people. Do you pay your sales staff commission on their sales because your target is really stretched and you really want them to work hard, but you're offering them greater rewards if they achieve it? This really enables pushing your sales team to achieve those targets. You might also find ways to really acquire the best talent or particular sort of talent in the market, and find ways of rewarding talent for great achievements. There might be implications on the technology that you employ, for example, in managing your customers or delivering your products and services. All these decisions about the supporting organizational arrangements should follow from the strategy and should be very clear, because everybody in the organization, everyone in your executive team, including you, will be able to say, yep, this is what we have to do, because on an overall level, this is the strategy and this is how we should get there. So this model of strategy is quite simple. And it works really not just for startups, but I think for any kind of organization. It's fairly high level, but I think it gives you an idea of what are the things that you will have to think about as a startup founder when thinking strategically about your business. Remember, the most important thing I think for founders is to create a product or service that is actually wanted by customers. Once you've found that, and you're going towards getting a market fit or a business model fit, strategy becomes really important in terms of setting up the organization to make all those little decisions as you go along to direct the organization and the people within it into the right direction. So I hope you found this a little helpful. You can find some links to these materials in the post below, and hope to see you soon.